A while back, I posted a TikTok video, and what I said in the TikTok video is we've got to stop trying to lose 5 to 10 pounds. Now, of course, that got a lot of pushback, and a lot of people asked me lots of questions like, why would you say that? You're a dietitian. You should just be helping them get to their goal no matter what that is. But what I meant by saying that is if you're already at an appropriate size for your height, right? If you're someone who is just trying to lose 5 to 10 pounds for the purposes of aesthetics, that is actually going to cause you more harm than good down the road. And so what we're going to talk about today is actually a meta-analysis, which is basically summarizing a bunch of different research into this on how your body is going to compensate when you try to force it to do so. And so let me first start by saying that these research studies are specifically about individuals who are already at an appropriate size for their height. So many of the people that were researched had a body fat percentage of anywhere from 10% to 30%. They were all men and women. Some of them were Army Rangers. They were physically active. And so we're specifically talking about individuals who are trying to lose this weight or dieting for whatever reason, just for the purposes of aesthetics. And so what they found in this article is that, so a lot of times what these people did is what they called semi-starvation, which was restricting the caloric intake well below where it should be for one reason or another. So for example, in the Army Ranger study, it was because they were at field training, and in the field training, they didn't have as much access to food, so they were hardly eating anything. Some of the other research studies, it was just calorie restriction because people were trying to lose weight. But again, this is a big meta-analysis summarizing a bunch of different studies, so I'm not going to go into the detail of every single one. But all you need to know is that they were on what's called a SemiStarvation diet. So they were restricting their caloric intake. And what happened is some of these people did lose weight. And when I say weight, I just mean weight on the scale. And so when they looked at that in terms of body composition analysis, a lot of these individuals lost quite a bit of lean mass, and they also lost some fat. And so what they did is actually track these individuals as they went back to a more appropriate caloric amount for their body's needs. And what they found is that the body always restored that lean mass. So let me just backtrack real quick. Remember, lean mass is like muscle, collagen, connective tissues. It's basically everything in the body that's not fat. So they had lost some lean mass during this semi-starvation or calorically restrictive diet. And then when they went back to eating a more appropriate amount of calories, the body immediately gained back that lean mass, which makes sense because that's all stuff that we need. That's stuff that's important for immunity and longevity, and your body wants to have a high lean mass. And so they gained back that lean mass. However, what they found is the individuals who were, again, already at this appropriate size gained back more fat than when they started before the initial diet, right? And so then what they did is they tracked some of these for multiple what they called diet cycles. So in some of these individuals, they did up to 10 diet cycles, and every time they saw an upward trajectory of fat. So what would happen is these individuals would diet, they would lose a little bit of weight, and then every diet cycle, they gained more and more fat. So after every diet cycle, they would gain back a little bit of lean mass, but then they'd also gain back a little bit more fat. And then the next time, same thing. They would gain back the lean mass, but they'd gain back even more fat. And over time, again, that correlation was that fat was coming up and up the more diet cycles that they did. Now, the reason that we know that this is specifically with individuals that are already at an appropriate size is because they compared these numbers to the Biggest Loser study. And in the Biggest Loser study, a lot of these individuals actually gained back the weight after coming off of the Biggest Loser show. And in the Biggest Loser study, what they found is people gained back their lean mass, but they gained back the same amount of fat. It wasn't more fat than they had in the beginning, it was the same amount. So you see the difference there? So in the Biggest Loser study, people gained back weight, but it was an equal amount of lean mass and fat, and it wasn't necessarily more fat than when they started. But in the individuals just trying to lose that small amount of weight for the purposes of aesthetics, actually ended up, by definition, fatter than when they started. Now, they're still doing more research into why this is, and the term that they're using is what's called fat overshoot. And they think that there's a lot of reasons reasons about why the body compensates, and a lot of things to do with some stuff that I've talked about in other videos about how your hormones can be impacted from these calorically restrictive diets. But all of that to say, that is why I always say I don't want you to try and obsess over losing this 5 to 10 pounds just for the purposes of aesthetics. Now that kind of leads me down a different route, and that's when we start to talk about, especially with my clients who are dealing with this, of loving your body where it's at. It's okay if your body doesn't look how it did 10 years ago. You're not 10 years younger. All we are doing is getting older, and what we want to do is prepare for a happy, healthy, older self. So what you can do in this instance is, of course, not go on a very calorically restrictive diet. Fuel your body well, exercise, and if you find that your body is staying at this particular size, even if it's 10 or 15 pounds heavier than you think you should be, that's okay. If you can say with confidence that you're fueling your body well and you're doing movement that you love, you're on the right track. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.